Welcome back to DEGN Talk. Today I have a very old friend,
Hi.
Kenny, co-founder
Hello.
of Manta. Hello, Kenny. How are you today?
Doing all right. Glad to be here in sunny Vietnam. It's actually very cloudy.
I was gonna say it's actually pretty smoggy out, like out back, but all good, mate. Listen, always good to see you. We've known each other for a couple of years. Right off the bat, man, tell me about your Web3 journey thus far.
Well, my Web3 journey thus far, it started 13 years ago, and still got all the hair on my head, so hashtag blessed. Started off as a Bitcoin miner, and so I did it back in 2013 in the early days. Went to a lot of Bitcoin meetups, and back then Bitcoin was so sketchy. Uh, Honestly, the people that were there were just the weirdest people that you would never ever think to take financial advice from. And I
But
don't
here
even
we
know
are.
why I was in the room. I was probably one of the sketchy folks. But then I eventually went out to start writing about it back in 2016, 2017-ish, around like when all the ICOs started happening, because that's when the really big bull market hit. And then all of a sudden I had phone calls and texts and everything from every friend and relative asking me what Bitcoin is. And so I decided to just write about it. And then in 2018, I went to go pursue my master's over at MIT, where I was the teaching assistant for former SEC chairman Gary Gensler. And that was
Wow.
pretty eye-opening because, I was helping him with his crypto courses.
Hmm.
It was very inspiring to see, someone with that sort of background taking this industry extremely seriously.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a turning point. And right after graduating and getting my master's, I went to go start Manta Network, and that was about 5 years ago. We are a team of around 40 people all around the world now, and yeah, just keep building in the space.
Would love to know, man. Manta Network, what inspired you to do that? What inspired you to start your own blockchain?
Yeah, it's a really good question because especially, I mean, even now, I think we're still so early. There's still so many problems to be solved. And, after working with Gary and, just seeing all of these enterprises and traditional institutions take an interest in Bitcoin and blockchain, even back then, right? Like, I mean, we were doing courses where we were matching students with consultancies like A.T. Kearney and BCG and Deloitte, and they were looking at using blockchain to solve certain problems. Back then, it was mostly about supply chain. Um, and so it told me that, this is an industry that in the future will be widely adopted beyond just, cryptocurrency transactions. And so at the same time, what's it going to take to get there? Because there's so many unsolved problems in this space. And so when we started Manta Network, we were really out there to solve what we believe was a really core problem and still is a really core problem. And that, when we began, was around on-chain privacy. Long story short, right? Like once we entered the arena, we realized there's way too many problems to also be solved before we even have to care about on-chain privacy. And so we started hitting one that's closer to home for a lot of users, which is scalability. And so about 3 years ago, we launched our layer two on top of Ethereum to help with the scalability problem. We were one of five layer twos at the time. Now we're one of like maybe 5,000. Um, but at the time, it was really a powerful sort of event for us and a turning point for the project. And we became the largest modular L2 in the ecosystem. And that's what we're mostly known for. But at the end of the day, when people ask what is Manta, I think that Manta has always been a project that has been focused on the advancement of Web3, whether it's on-chain privacy, whether it's on scalability, or even now, whether it's about use cases, user adoption, and revenue-driven applications, which is exactly what we're focused on.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are your focus on? We have seen a lot of chains popping up, right? And you just don't really get their core mission, right? They try to solve everything, but at the end of the day, they're not really solving anything. Manta has been the same kind of mission throughout several years now, since the beginning. What would you say your main focus is right now at Manta, and what sort of issues are we kind of solving at this point in time in 2025 that you
Yeah,
see
you
that
know,
needs to be solved?
yeah, it's really funny because, when we entered the space and started Manta, we started at the lowest of the low infrastructure, the L1, because we thought we could solve the problem by getting to the very, very root of it. And then what we realized is that, there's no users on the L1. Everyone's trying to scale out Ethereum. And so then we went up a step and we scaled out Ethereum. And that's our L2. And as we did that, we realized, okay, there's not really any users because there's not too many use cases outside of like DeFi. And so now we're in a stage where we've stepped, a layer above that, and we're focusing on applications. Um, and so these are omni-chain applications, right? Like when we say we want to build out real use cases, revenue-driven use cases, we can't lie to ourselves and say, oh, we're going to put them on Manta, right? Because the reality is there's like 5,000 different L2s out there. And on top of that, only one or two are what users flock to the most, right? It's base, maybe it's Arbitrum, and everyone else falls by the wayside. And so, to limit the adoption of the applications that we believe can drive real use cases by putting it on one specific L2, I think severely limits that potential. And so, we're building omni-chain applications for Manta. And so, we call it more of an application ecosystem, and we are deploying it wherever we believe users will be and places that we believe we can drive more adoption and at the end of the day, drive more revenue. Because I think, especially now, revenue is the true indicator of product market fit in the Web3 space. That hasn't always been the case, right? It used to be TPS. And then after TPS, it was TVL. Then after TVL, it was users and community. And now it's revenue. And so, like our mission, our sole mission on the application side is to prove out real use cases by driving revenue and using that revenue to then give back to the Manta community.
Got it. Got it. So building an application that's omni-chain will ultimately be kind of reflected back onto the community at Manta, right? What kind of things do you have in store for your community then for the next 6 to 12
Oh,
months?
yeah. So great question. What kind of
Gonna need
applications
you
are we
gonna
building?
need you to drop some stuff today, Kenny. Gonna
Yeah,
need you to drop some secrets or some alphas today, man.
sure. So I'll
Now that I've
say
got
that
you
we've
here
got
finally.
We've got about five applications that are under development. And so by the end of the year, I expect all five to be out into the market. The reason why we're doing this is because we're taking a very strategic approach. At the end of the day, it's very much like a VC, or it's very much like building your own startup, right? Like you don't know what's going to work. And we're placing very strategic bets in these five arenas. But I would say that we don't have the ego to be confident and say these are definitely going to work. And so what we're doing in stage one is building these five applications and finding the teams that we believe will be able to bring this to market, and the use cases we believe will scale. That's phase one. And I believe, we'll be done with that by the end of this year for all five applications to launch. Then from there, within the next 6 months, we're probably going to be in our growth stage where we start experimenting with different go-to-market strategies. We start experimenting with different marketing campaigns, and we see which ones get sticky, which ones actually start driving revenue. And I'd say by middle of next year, we'll have a very good idea which of these applications we really want to double down on. And from there, I think that's where we really try to hit that explosive growth. And so, like I'm not gonna. I know that in Web3 things tend to move very quickly, and that's something that we're very well experienced in by being in this space over the past 5 years and seeing all these things change and being a part of that change. But I think that, to really do this right and to really drive that revenue and to drive real use cases and adoption, right? Like it's not going to be a one and done sort of approach, right? It's going to be a slow
Yeah.
burn.
Yeah.
But we think that, we'll get a lot of traction probably by this time, or sorry, not this time, probably by mid or early next year. And so what are these applications? One is already out. It's called Super Fortune, and it's the first one that we tried because we do still want to cater to the spirit of Web3, which is more so on the DGen side, and at the same time, one of the arenas that we think would be unlocked in this market is one of metaphysics and spirituality. I won't go into too much detail there, but essentially, it's a huge market. Like I never knew, but it's insane. And we think that we can unlock the intersection of Web3 and metaphysics. And so no other project is attempting to do this right now. So it's a greenfield, which means that that market share as a first mover, we probably, if we do things right, can take a large chunk of it, which hopefully translates into some pretty decent revenues.
Yo, every DEGN when they put in a trade, they're held together by hopes and prayers, man. So
Yeah. Hopes
this
and
is
prayers.
exactly what you're catering
That's
that
solid.
stuff to, and it's perfect.
Yeah, so definitely catering towards the more degen audience. We have another one on the enterprise DeFi side, which we're accelerating. It is taking an existing market that already is a billion-dollar industry in traditional finance and retweaking it for the crypto space. And through arbitrage opportunities, I think the profitability is still going to be there, if not a magnitude higher, especially with the adoption of RWAs. So I think that this is going to be one of our strategic long-term bets as well in the enterprise DeFi side. Um, and then we have one in the entertainment side, which helps celebrities connect more closely with their own fan base, as well as helping them with better monetization. And we're not saying celebrities as in like KOLs and influencers and Web3 degens and anon accounts. We're talking about the A-list stars on the music artists in terms of actors and actresses. And so we think that if we can secure that pipeline that we believe we can do, that could be a pretty decent, fun revenue potential as well.
Yeah, tokenization of IP and tokenization of engagements, really,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because they're
yeah.
popular and stuff, and then
Engagement
they can make money
specifically.
from that, right?
Yeah.
They're making money
So
from their own popularity through
exactly.
tokenization.
Yeah. And it's a win-win situation because then the fans get a great, unique experience, and the celebrities are also able to connect closer with them. And we have two additional applications in the pipeline as well, but they're still a little bit too early. But I'll just leave it at that. I think that's been enough alpha already.
Ah, that's great. That's great. I think the logical question for me to ask next is if I'm a builder, right? If I'm a builder, what sort of applications would Manta be interested in seeing, and will there be any support from Manta in terms of grants and stuff? If I really want to build an OmniChain application on Manta.
Yes. Short answer for grants, yes, of course. We have a grants program. It's always been open. It's been reinvented. So, um, the traditional grants process, I think, has been very cannibalistic and not very productive, very low ROI, right? You have these
Yeah.
projects that end up building the minimum viable product to receive the grant, and then they grant farm somewhere else.
Yeah.
Instead, our grants program does not require you to build on our L2. It does require you to do revenue share. And so we
Right.
don't care where you deploy. In fact, we encourage you to deploy on whatever environment you believe you will have the most success in. Our main priority is to make sure that you generate revenue. And once you generate revenue, a portion of that comes back to the Manta token community. And so that's the whole business model of the grants, right? Like other than that, there's no restrictions, and I think that our incentives are aligned. We want you to be massively successful, and so that requires capital, that requires our network, that requires as many introductions as possible, that requires help from our engineering team to speed things up, help from our marketing team for go-to-market strategies, right? These are all resources we bring to the table, and it's not limited to just launching on our L2. Um, and so when it comes to the types of applications that we want to see, I mean, you can see from the ones I listed in our pipeline, it varies, right? Like we are not we're not trying to pigeonhole ourselves into one specific opportunity. We think that the space is extremely large and there's tons of opportunity that has yet to be tapped. And so our focus isn't, okay, you need to be in a specific industry. Our focus is more so, do you have the right use case? Do can you drive the users, and are you the right team to do it? And if the answer is yes to all three of those, then like it matters less what industry you're in, than your experience, your team, and your capability.
I think that's genius. I really do think that's genius. You guys become like the angel fund basically for great builders out there, right? And then
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
limitation on exactly where they want to build. It could even be Web 2, correct? It doesn't even need to be Web 3, or is it
exactly.
has to be Web
Yeah.
3?
I mean, ideally, right? I guess this kind of gets into my whole philosophy of how applications in Web3 should be built. And I think like the current generation of Web3 applications are all built wrong. Like it's, um, I mean,
Please
not all.
expand on that, man. That's literally going to be my last, like, next question. But yeah, go ahead. I was gonna ask you about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
please
like
share your philosophy,
it's
man.
the way I describe Web3 versus Web2 is like Linux versus Windows. And so, when you buy a Windows laptop, you just open it up and it works, right? That's great. That's user experience. That's a software that's built by product managers, right? When you want to have Linux, all of a sudden you have to go through this complicated process of installing Linux onto your computer, which is quite intimidating for most people. And so that is the Web3 experience. It's built open source, it's built by engineers, and complexity is more the norm than the exception.
Yes.
That translates very much into the Web3 applications we see today. Like me being in the space for, however long, I don't know, from 2013 till now, right? Like that's over 15 years. Um, or sorry, not over 15 years, but at least over 10 years. But
Yeah,
the it's still intimidating.
it is.
Like I can't I can't name one time where I confidently sent a transaction on chain without having to double check, without making sure that all
Yeah,
the numbers and letters are there, right?
yeah.
Like, and I make mistakes, and so like someone who's been in this space for that long still feels very intimidated to use these Web3 applications. There's something wrong with them. And so when
And
it
if we want to cross chain as well, right? We got to go through the whole process of reading up all that stuff and then kind of do a simple
yeah,
transaction. So
yeah,
it's such a
like
long thing to actually do any like testing because it's such a you know it's such a process, and then
yeah,
you're just like it's so off putting. You're just like, oh, okay, I'll just do this after I don't know my dinner, and then you forget about it because like it's so daunting. It's the same thing
yeah,
every single time,
daunting and slow, right? Like
and then
sometimes
you
you
open
want
up
to
your
do it.
wallet, you realize, oh shit, my test wallet is not here. I need to
Yeah,
import it from somewhere, and you're just like, it's just gonna be a whole hassle again.
just too many pain points, right? And so, why does it have to be that way? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. There's no universal law that says you must connect your wallet before you interact with an application in order for it to be useful and Web3. Like, why not just let people interact with the application in a way they normally know how, and then eventually ease them into the Web3 aspects? And so, our whole philosophy here with the applications we're building out is exactly that. Like, you don't have to be memorizing your seed phrase on day one. You shouldn't have to worry about a wallet address at all. Like, all these things are just so Web3 specific and they're so gatekeeping that it hinders adoption. But we're specifically focused on adoption and revenue. And so the applications that we're building, the applications that we're focused on, make sure that it's revenue driven and user centric. Those are our top priorities. If you have blockchain on it, that's great. If you don't have blockchain on it today and you're interested in putting it in the future, we'll work through it with you to figure out the best way to do that in a user friendly manner. And it doesn't have to be there on day one. Revenue generation is the top priority.
Awesome. See, builders, you've heard it from Kenny himself, right? Come and build with Manta, right? Make your vision come true. Um, Kenny, I would love to know your vision on or your views on the current state of market, right? Like RWA, AI, and stuff. This whole new kind of direction that's going on. Stable coins, TradeFi, and InfoFi, right? All that wonderful stuff. Like, what's your take on it? Would love to hear from your views. I'll give you
I
some time.
think
That's a lot.
maybe I'm a bit too much of a Bitcoin maxi sometimes, but I think sometimes Bitcoin maxis were right because, and the whole Bitcoin maxi philosophy is you don't need anything except Bitcoin. Um, and I think that everything that has happened in this space so far has proven that maybe we don't really need anything except Bitcoin. Um, I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case for the future, and we're working to change that definitely. Especially as we think about these actual application use cases. But if you really dig into all the innovation that we've seen over the past several years of post Ethereum era, um, what do we have? We have what's called GameFi. We have what's called SocialFi. We have what's called NFTs. Now we have AI, and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, what does it translate into? It translates into whether or not you make money, right? Like, no one, I'm sorry to Friendtech, but no one gave a shit about Friendtech. Like, no one was there because they thought Friendtech was going to replace Twitter. Yeah, sure. KOLs shilled the heck out of Friendtech to say that it would replace Twitter. And yeah, you could drink the Kool-Aid. But after the token launched, who still uses Friendtech, right? Like, it was never about the social side. It was about the speculation. It was about
And
the
your
airdrop.
project and good or bad regarding your project is directly tied to the price of the token and how much money people are making. Nobody actually gives about what problems you're actually solving or innovation you're actually making.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think so far, financial tools and the ability to transact and hold and make money, I mean, these are all value propositions of Bitcoin. And everything else around it has kind of been lipstick on a pig. Um, and I feel like this is kind of the same for the current generation of what we're seeing. No offense to all the builders out there doing AI stuff, but I built healthcare AI models, and I worked for the largest AI company on the planet back in like 2018, 2019. Like, I know a little bit about the space. I have not to date seen any true product market fit of AI and blockchain. I've seen hype, I've seen money making opportunities, and those are, whatever it is, right? Like, just call it what it is. That's fine. I cannot confidently say that I've seen something that I would say, wow, this is product market fit that I've never seen before and cannot be built
Yeah,
in.
I
Why is that?
completely agree. When I was on AMAs and stuff, I always say I don't see there's any kind of there's no mixing blockchain and AI, right? It's like mixing water and oil, right? They will
Yeah.
never get mixed. It
And it's for
or they're
different use
always
cases.
they're two completely different things. You can't train in AI model decentralized way because it just doesn't work and it doesn't make any sense because it's just so slow, right? And it's too costly, right? So this whole decentralization and AI is just completely opposite in the way it fundamentally works.
And what's really funny is, you're talking about this training and the decentralization training and the network latency that makes it very impractical. We saw this manifestation back in 2014 or 2015 with like SIA and other storage coins. Like, they were supposed to outcompete Dropbox and Amazon AWS because it was decentralized
Filecoin.
storage and peer-to-peer, file storage and all that stuff. And at that time, I was working in the cloud computing space, and the first thing I noticed was there's no way that you can compete on unit economics and the network latency, and the resiliency and redundancy of centralized storage systems. But it was all the rage, and storage units and big data and all that stuff was the hot stuff. And so now I think we're seeing the same thing in AI, right? Training is what everyone goes towards. But yeah, network latency, redundancy, resiliency, data privacy issues, right? Like all these things that, magically just don't matter in this space of Web3 AI blockchain, but like matter everywhere else once you step outside that arena that like, the AI blockchain experts don't really understand.
Yeah, I think this kind of leads beautifully into, what I really want to ask you about is that, Web3 identity crisis, right? The notion of L2 is pretty much dead and stuff. I really want to, understand how would that kind of, how would that affect the future kind of development of Manta itself and, the relevancy of it to Manta as well.
Yeah, it's a great question because, Manta, we started off as an L1, we built an L2, and now we're building an application layer. And so at the end of the day, right, like we go where we're needed, where we see there's a problem in this space. And so most people know us for our L2 because that was one of our most recent products and that was one of our most successful products. But it's not our only product and it's not the only space we compete in because I believe that, if you continue to simply be an L2, you will die on that hill. The L2 space is so commoditized, and anyone that thinks that they can differentiate with technology is just lying to themselves. Because if that was simply true, then why do applications deploy on every single L2 that gives them money? Right? Because they care more about the money than they care about the technology, because the technology is all the same. You either get users or you don't.
We're in
So,
the space to make money, Kenny.
yeah, and
What's wrong with you?
no, it's not simply that, but like I think that L2s eventually will be the scalability layer of Ethereum. Like that's inevitable. It has to be that way. And in order for it to work, these L2s have to work in coordination, right? Like horizontal scalability versus vertical scalability. I won't get into details about that, but like essentially, one L2 is not going to change the world, right? Like, I mean, even on Solana, Pump Fun is like the darling use case of this generation. And I think at the peak, they had about like 170,000 daily active users, right? With Duolingo, 20 million daily active users. Like, even the best of the best crypto application is a drop in the bucket compared to an average Web 2 application.
That
And so
actually
to think,
has use case, that actually
yeah,
solves a core issue that we
and to
face,
think
which is
that
learning language.
one L2, whether it's Base or Manta or Arbitrum, is going to be able to host one Duolingo? Like, are you kidding yourself? There's no way. And so L2s, I think, eventually will become commoditized and you will be able to scale them up, run them down whenever you need in a horizontal manner to achieve that scalability. So I think that there's a beautiful product market fit for L2s. But there's not a beautiful product market fit for 5,000 different L2s trying to isolate themselves and build their own ecosystem of like
Yeah,
zombie
yeah,
projects that are just like parallel universes of each other.
yeah.
Um,
That's not solving scalability. That's
right.
compartmentalization of scalability.
And
You're
fragmentation of
compartmentalizing it.
liquidity and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
When
exactly.
Manta first launched, we were one of five L2s on the market. And so we were thinking, okay, we got to focus on a specific application and a specific industry. And, we will be the L2, the scalability layer for that industry. Right now, 5,000 L2s, they all do the same thing. It's a completely different market. Um, so yeah, I don't think
Oh,
that many of the projects will survive.
yeah.
But I think L2s will definitely have a role in the decentralized world.
Awesome, awesome. Is this what you envisioned when you started in crypto today? Is this is if or is it very different from what you expected?
No, I think it's very much the same. Um, because even when I first started mining Bitcoin, like, oh my gosh, just sending a transaction to myself was like minutes. And
Yeah, it's
you're
painful.
not
It
used
was
to that. You're
painful.
used to swiping a credit card and taking your coffee and going. Um,
And then they're like, "This is the future of payment," and you're like, "Are you kidding me? Are you
yeah,
fucking kidding me? This shit is just not
yeah.
working."
And it's even worse when the person telling you is a complete weirdo who still lives in like his mom's basement or something.
Yeah,
And so, like, 2013 was a weird time, man. Um, And so I think like my vision of how decentralization works has always been hybrid, meaning
Yeah.
that there will be decentralized infrastructure and the optionality to be completely self custody for every single person in the world that has access to the internet. But most of the people won't take that option because we can't handle the responsibility of self custody. We can't we can't handle managing 24 word seed phrases. Like I have to click on forgot my password probably 3 to 5 times a week on centralized websites. Like that's how little I remember. And so most people will not want self custody. Most people want fast service. They want convenience. But if you want control, that's where the decentralized element comes in. And
Yeah.
so the way that I see this technology ecosystem play out in the future is that at the very base layer, the very, very fundamental layer, fully decentralized. Something with proof of stake or proof of work, like Ethereum or something else. But then there's a lot of infrastructure and scalability layers and services built on top of that, right? So maybe you have a bank that deploys its own L2, and then that bank can service customers. And most of those customers will not want their own wallets and seed phrases in case they lose them. Instead, they'll still give the responsibility to the bank to manage those assets. And the bank can still do whatever they want with that asset. But then when the user says, you know what, I'm going to withdraw my money now, they can withdraw it. And there's not going to be like a 24-hour delay. There's not going to be like, oh, only banking hours. There's not going to be like, oh, sorry, like, you can't have control of your assets, right? I think like that's where the power of Web3 is really going to shine because it's going to give you the ability to be completely self custody, but it's not necessary that every single user will be responsible or want that power.
Right, yeah. And also, how really decentralized are we? Imagine AWS, Alibaba Cloud all went down tomorrow. How many nodes is that going to knock off?
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? It's,
Really,
I mean,
right?
Bitcoin might still be around because Bitcoin
Yeah,
miners
because
run
that
on
runs separately. Yeah, it's a
AWS.
separate thing. Yeah, which
But
is great.
it's a different story for L2s.
Yeah, yeah. So where do you think the next opportunity lies in all these narratives and stuff in Web3, and what's in store for Manta as well to kind of capture that opportunity?
I think, like people asked me a year ago about what the opportunity was, and I told them RWAs. I see it coming. And now we got RWAs. But back then,
Yes, we
people were
do.
like, no way, no way, this guy's crazy. All right, what's my next prediction? I
Do
think
it. Do
it's
it. August the 6th. What is it? Sorry, missed that.
universal basic income.
Universal basic income.
So the reason why I think this, and this is a very long term play. If you're thinking short term to medium term, I'd say more institutional adoption, enterprise DeFi. There's so much opportunity right now to take traditional financial tools, services, and all that stuff, retranslate them into crypto. Huge business, huge market share. And I think like that's an opportunity that Manta's tackling in the short term as well with enterprise DeFi. I think that's going to be a big opportunity. But the even longer term play is universal basic income. Um, the reason why I think this is true is because data is gold now, right? I mean, you can say
Yeah.
Bitcoin's gold. Yeah, sure, that's gold. But data is gold as well, right? Like, I mean, there's a reason why Facebook is a multi-billion dollar company. There's a reason why Google is a multi-billion dollar company, right? And there's a reason why OpenAI is now, I don't know, in the trillions. I have no idea. It's not OpenAI got that way not because they simply just woke up one day and built a model out of scratch. They trained from inaccessible data to the rest of the world to become that way, right? They scraped every single piece of the internet that they could to build the best models in the world. And so data has been and will continue to be digital gold. Um, but that data acquisition, where does that come from? It comes from us. It comes from humans that contribute to the internet, whether actively or passively. Actively
Yeah.
being writing blogs, writing news articles, talking, responding in comments, all this stuff. or passively, being your IoT devices. Every single click you make and all this stuff, it goes over the internet, and we know you microwaved your burrito for like 3 minutes. And so, this type of data collection has traditionally been more so profitable for companies, enterprises, institutions, right? And humans, we see very little of that $1 billion of revenue every single year. Um, but I think that crypto has the opportunity to completely flip that on its head. And if you're asking me what is a potential use case for blockchain and AI, this is it. Because OpenAI, ChatGPT, Anthropic, they've already almost hit the limits of trainable data on the internet, right? Like Wikipedia, they already scraped it. Reddit, they already scraped it. Google, they already scraped it. And guess what? ChatGPT is still stupid when it comes to really specialized information. And yeah, ChatGPT's been trained to be very confident, so you believe that it is giving you the right answer, but hallucination is still very much a problem.
It is. Yeah.
And so, with this type of problem already in existence and us hitting a bottleneck of data today, what's the next thing? We need more data. But how do we get that data? Right? Like, we need more people to train it, we need more people to submit their data. And I think, especially if you're going to rely on the entire world to continue giving you that data, then I think cryptocurrency becomes a proxy for incentivizing people to provide specialized data to train even more powerful models in the future. And that training of the models then comes back to one, benefit the user, and two, help the user make money.
So you think that would be something that's will be a big part in the future, right?
Yeah,
And that would
definitely.
really kind of you start utilizing all the thousands of L2s that that we have now, because it will finally be a case where people will be able to pile on how many millions and stuff, and it would the scalability would be there when they do, right?
Yeah. And then I think it's a perfect sort of transition into the generation of AI because undoubtedly it's going to wreck economies, it's going to blow up economies, it's going to ruin lives, it's going to make new lives. And during this transition period, I think one of the biggest questions that people are asking is what's the role of humans? What's the role of
Right.
humans when you no longer
And
need
data
machine
would be
technology?
that kind of lifeblood,
Right. We
so to
essentially
speak.
become harvestable energy for AI. But at least we make a few bucks through UBI on them.
Wow, that is like some that's some dystopian stuff, man. That that's pretty cool.
Different.
Now what what would you say your ultimate goal and milestone that you'll be when like when you hit that you'll be like that's it, I'm done, I'm retired, like this is all I want to see. Like what would be that kind of stage for you
I mean, in crypto or in life?
in life, of course, in relation to crypto, obviously.
Well, my one of my core motivations for as a leader is my team and the people that have helped along the way. I think that, what I've learned throughout life is that you are not yourself. You are a product of all the people around you. And so, I think that being able to scale Manta to a point that will be very beneficial to the team and everyone around us, um, I would say that that would be very fulfilling. Um, that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is and this is something that Manta has already been doing. Um, we've always kind of looked at the industry and gave a big fat middle finger and just said, okay, I don't care how you think things should be done. We're going to do this in a way, and either people will love it and they'll do it themselves later and we'll make a mark, or we'll fail. Um, we were the first ones to pilot with Celestia for data availability. And since that time, everyone's been using DA, right? Like we proved that it works, we proved that it's okay, and everyone else jumped on the bandwagon. Even when we were building our L1 with all the ZK innovation that we did things that people have never done before. And it became core technologies in a lot of the ZK innovation that we see today. Um, and I think even now, as we're exploring applications, yeah, sure, we could launch meme coins, right? Like we could build AI blockchain hype, right? Like why not?
Mm,
It
yeah,
doesn't
why
seem
not?
that
Exactly. Yeah.
complicated, but
Mm,
we're taking a very different route. We're saying, you know what? Let's try to find new markets. Let's try to take these risks and see where we go. Most of it might explode in our faces, but the ones that succeed, again, we're going to be piloting and we're going to be pioneering that innovation. And so, as we continue to grow as a project, I hope to see bigger and bigger pioneering events coming out of Manta. And that's something that I think, we're all very proud of.
fantastic. Well, I think this would conclude our interview for now, Kenny. I have like 50 other questions for you, man, but it's dark outside in Vietnam already, so better end this quickly. So, well, thank you for all the guests that's going to be viewing this episode, and thank you for Kenny. You're always an inspiration. Kenny,
For having
the
me, Jeff.
co-founder of Manta, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers.